guys, it's Cloudy. How are you all? Today I'm very excited to be talking about two isekai shows that I'm watching right now with female protagonists. The first one is I'll Become a Villainess Who Goes Down in History, and the second one is the Do-Over Damsel Conquers the Dragon Emperor. And the reason why I wanted to talk about both of these shows is because they are airing together and I'm watching them weekly, and I feel like a lot of people who are watching the kind of genre that I'm also watching, like villainous fans, isekai fans, fantasy romance kind of fans, you guys are also going to be checking out this show. So I think it's a great time to check in with each other and have a conversation about how these shows are unfolding. I'll Become a Villainess Who Goes Down in History stars Alicia Williams as our main character. She is the villainess in her game, and our heroine actually came from the modern world. So she was basically a girl who played the video game, got through into the video game world, and now she's navigating as one of the characters. She knows about the other main characters, the romance plot lines, the legend behind the actual heroine of the game, and also about her fate in the game as the original villainess. Rather than being a villainess who just sort of like takes everything lying down, is very two-dimensional and spiteful, she actually becomes a very like level-headed, strong, realistic woman, and she has so many OP skills that are given to her because she's a villainess, but also skills that she works towards and builds up, and she becomes a very, very formidable character in the universe that she's thrown into. And when she was an original, just like 2D typical villainous character, she had a sort of doom ending. And now because she's a little bit different, I think she's gonna change her destiny as well. So that's sort of like the hook of the show. We want to see how Alicia is going to interact with our main heroine and see how that dynamic plays out. Who's actually going to be the hero that saves this world and fulfills the prophecy in the game. For Do-Over Damsel, there is no villainous aspect. It's more of like a fantasy, romance, isekai kind of take. Jill Savall, she was originally the fiance of the Crown Prince Gerald de Cletos and known as the Lady Goddess of War. We have a very badass female isekai character. She ends up being hunted down by the very people who she tried to help in her original kingdom, and she meets a pretty dark death in the first episode. Unbeknownst to her, she ends up being reincarnated 6 years into the past, and now she's 10 again, and she has the chance to like do over her life. Now this time she knows who is gonna betray her, who's gonna backstab her, what kind of plot is under the table. Obviously in her first life she didn't know anything and she fell victim to manipulators. So now she's like taking control of her life again, and she's gonna change the direction of her destiny. When we first meet Jill, she is kind of young, and because she has the knowledge of her previous life, she's actually a much like more serious and hardened 10-year-old than, you know, typical 10-year-olds. And it's kind of weird. I have this like disconnect because she looks so cute and innocent, but when she speaks, she literally has this aura, like 1,000 aura points, and she just is such a strong general. And we see that maturity really shine through, and I think that's one of the reasons that her relationship with the Dragon Emperor kind of works, because her personality is older than her body and how she looks. In contrast to like Jill's initial memories of like what's gonna happen, Jill tries to facilitate different kind of political relationships and also navigate the world a little bit better, navigate the kingdom relationship better, so that things don't turn into like a fiery, gruesome war in the next 6 years. All right, so that was our rundown of both shows. Now I want to quickly talk about like different sections. So I'm gonna be talking about my first impressions, which show I found more interesting, captivating. Next part is going to be our heroine comparison between Alicia and Jill. And finally is our plot comparison and pacing within this season. So firstly, for first impressions, I really liked Reikishi a bit more because the art style and the character designs were a little bit more attractive to me. I feel like in Yarina Oshi, in Do-Over Damsel, except for the main two characters and the cute little white dragon, we don't really see a lot of like other interesting character designs. Obviously, because it's not an otome setup, there are just like less characters. And the love triangle is like not really a love triangle. It's kind of like her ex prince fiance is stalking Jill and also is like obsessed with like taking her from the Dragon Emperor. So it's like kind of gross. Yarina Oshi kind of got bogged down at the beginning with a lot of like the romance stuff. So we didn't dive into some of like the political stuff until the mid part of the series. I felt like Villainess Who Goes Down in History had a bit more of like a fun start. Okay, now let's dive more into our heroine comparisons. Alicia is someone who is very like me focused, very like selfish, compared to the actual heroine of the game who is very selfless, almost saint-like and very altruistic. I think one of the reasons why Alicia is very, very likable is because she spends so much time improving herself and also sticking to her true ideals. She has very strong boundaries. She's not gonna just like pretend to be friends with the heroine just because the heroine is super nice. She just like does her own thing and she accomplishes her goals one by one. And I think that's very admirable. And just because you appear selfish to certain people in the pursuit of your own goals and ideals, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. Like, I think it just reflects on Alicia as a very strong-willed, determined person. And these are qualities that we really like to see in villainous characters. Compared to Jill, I feel like because Jill is just like very young and she wasn't given this like kind of OP plot armor and like plot features compared to Alicia, Jill has just been like navigating things a little bit more with a struggle. It's hard for her to take control of the political tide when she's only 10 years old. She has to accumulate people who used to be close to her. She has to solve the mystery behind the Dragon Emperor or curse. And she also has to like navigate away from her political enemies. So I feel like she's just juggling a lot more and she doesn't have that much time to focus on self-growth because she's so focused on like external management and trying to control the situation. Like even in her relationship with the Dragon Emperor, I feel like he has more of control over her because he wants to protect her. He can just put her in a barrier or he can like put her away with certain guards. She does show a lot of like agency. I just think a lot of things are working against her. However, I do feel like Jill's saving grace is that she's so analytical, so strategic. She's so practical and efficient that she doesn't really need like overpowered character tropes to help her get through things. You get a sense that she is gonna figure it out. It just takes a little bit of time. And then finally, for like plot comparison and for pacing, Reikishi's pacing is very typical like villainous isekai kind of thing. Every episode is focused on like a little story or a vignette. There's like a theme and then it wraps up pretty quickly after like one episode. Versus for Yarina Oshi, I feel like the plot is trying to build itself up in a more overarching aspect. So there was a bit of a slow start to sort of like build up the layers. And then after around like episodes 5, 6, 7 is when we start having more action, more political fighting, more betrayal and intrigue. Aside from the fantasy and political romance, there's also like a magical aspect because the curse is another mystery aspect that has yet to be explored in the Yarina Oshi series. I think the anime is taking it quite slow. I wonder how accurate it is to the actual like depictions in the light novel and original material. And I feel like there's a lot of like potential for them to project the show long term into other seasons just because there's like so much material that we are not seeing. And I just feel like there's just so much plotting that the anime hasn't been able to like really grasp and show. As for the relationship between the characters in Reikishi's show, it's definitely between Alicia and Duke. Duke is the blue-haired guy character. He was originally supposed to fall in love with the heroine and only be nice to the heroine, but for some reason he's fallen head over heels for Alicia, and it's different from what Alicia initially expected. I feel like Duke is a pretty underdeveloped character. Like he's just handsome, quiet and brooding, and like he has that I'm only nice to the one I love kind of trope going for him. I didn't really like his character design at the beginning, but now that he's interacting with Alicia a little bit more, I think it's a bit more interesting now. But other than that, we don't really get to see Duke that much so far because it's mainly focused on Alicia and like her exploration of the game. In Yarina Oshi, the relationship is definitely more center stage and intertwined into the politics of the world, and the relationship is going to make a big difference as to how the story unfolds long term. Basically, Hades is like this adorable golden retriever puppy dog kind of boyfriend who can kind of flip the switch to be a dark, mad, cursed dragon emperor. And the curse around him is something that political neighbors and also people in the kingdom are very nervous about, because if the curse goes off, it's gonna bring like doom and destruction to the world. People will die, mysterious deaths, all these things. Jill's role is to basically make sure that this curse gets uncursed or just changes direction in terms of like final destiny. I liked their relationship because there is more of like a tug of war kind of thing. And I really wish the show would like flash forward to when Jill is way older, so that I feel like the relationship dynamics are a little bit more balanced. Right now, I feel like he's a little bit too old for her. It looks like he's like babysitting her, or that she's his little sister or something. It just kind of throws me off. So I just want her to be like a little bit older so that just the relationship is more balanced. I think a lot of the relationship is being dictated and driven by him. Anyway, so these are my thoughts on the 2 shows I've been watching this season that's related to like fantasy, romance, and isekai. I wonder what you guys think about it. I always feel like I'm comparing them because they are the 2 like main female demographic shows of the season. There is a huge collection of like other shows that are coming out with typical harem characters, like a lot of female characters and 1 male character. I'm not as into those ones. I'm always into shows where it's like female-centered character, female-centered storytelling, so I'm very excited for that. And I just want to know what you guys think, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks we're going to see how the season wraps off. Whether it'll be a cliffhanger or it'll be a kind of decisive ending really depends on the popularity of the show, and hopefully we'll get to see other seasons in the future for the material as well. So if you like this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more from me, and I will talk to you guys in my next video very soon. Bye!